Hi, my name's Aaron Curry, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my 21-year battle-tested blueprint to make sure you buy the right houses in the right cities on the right streets for your buy-to-let property investments. And you buy houses that instead of making you £2,000 a year for the rest of your life, make you £8,000 a year for the rest of your life. And that's all without running them on Airbnb and Booking.com. These are straightforward family-let investment properties. I'm sure you'd agree the difference between $2,000 a year for the rest of your life and $8,000 a year is a significant difference. With £2,000 a year, you can book to have a nice holiday. You can book to have a nice weekend break and go visit the Sistine Chapel, for example. But wouldn't you rather go for a week or two? Wouldn't you rather book the VIP passes so you can go past that queue and view it straight away? Wouldn't you rather have spectacular rather than average or okay? And this could be your holidays. This could be paying your bills at home. This could be the money you save and invest into your kids' future and the legacy that you leave for them. And it's not just 1 year, it's year after year after year. Imagine the compounding of the difference that can make. So this is why I want you to learn how to buy the right houses in the right towns and cities on the right streets. Now, this video is the second in a 3-part video series. In the first video, you know the property mantra, location, location, location. Well, in the first video, I talked exactly about that. The first video was sharing with you the 3 most profitable towns and cities in the UK right now where you should be buying your family-let investment properties, your buy-to-let investment properties, if you're buying in the market right now today. So I shared those in the first video, and even more importantly, I shared the 3 places you absolutely need to avoid. So if you haven't already watched that first video, what I suggest is you pause this one, don't delete it, pause it and come back to it, but somewhere around this video there'll be a link that you can click and you can go back and watch that first video first, so you know which towns and cities you should be investing in and where you should be investing. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you those rules so you get £8,000 per property as an average return over time. These are family-let properties, buy-to-lets, rather than £2,000 per property. And so that you buy properties in the right towns and cities, on the right streets, in the right place. You see, when I started out investing in property 21 years ago, I didn't know any of these rules. I didn't know the right places to buy property. And as a result, it was pretty much a disaster for me. My first 10 properties, I got a business partner to put the money in. I was putting the time in, and we were losing money. Sometimes hundreds of pounds, sometimes thousands of pounds, a couple of times over £10,000 lost per property. And it wasn't even my money, it was somebody else's money that I was losing. And I was on the verge of quitting. I was on the verge of giving up. Now, some of you won't have even started because of fear of this type of thing happening. Some of you might have bought 1, 2, or 3 properties so far, and then you've kind of hit a brick wall. It might be you've hit that brick wall because you can't find the time to go further, or actually you feel like you're creating a second job, and it was never your intention. You wanted to invest, you wanted to be wise with your money, but you didn't want to create this second job or more work for yourself, but you have. So some of you are beyond that. Some of you have got 5, 6, 7, 8, and you definitely created a job and you're realizing this is hard work. So what did I do when I hit these challenges and I was on my verge of quitting? Well, I was blessed enough at the time that somebody spoke to me and somebody shared the story of mastery. And what is mastery? Mastery is when you find the best possible person in the world or the best in the UK that's already done what you're looking to do. You see, so many of us are kind of, imagine the jungle's ahead of us and we're trying to get financial freedom on the other side of the jungle. And we're going into that jungle that's got some really cute animals in it, but some flipping scary ones too. And we don't know which are cute and which are scary. And we take out our butter knife from the kitchen drawer and start trying to hack our way through. And we wonder why we get lost, stuck. We've hit a 300-year-old oak tree and we can't even cut through it. Our hands are bleeding. We're 2, 3 years in. We go, I'm quitting on this. Or we don't even start because it looks so scary. But yet, just 3 meters away or 3 feet away, somebody's already cut through the jungle. They may have even built a motorway through it already. And all we need to do is step across those few feet and follow them down that path or jump on their back. It's kind of what you're doing now watching this video. You're taking my 2 decades of experience and you're compounding those decades and those losses and those mistakes, and you're taking the best of what I've got now in a few minutes, and you're taking that forward to invest successfully. That is mastery. What you're doing right now is mastery. So we got these 10 properties, and then I committed to mastery. It was by accident. I don't want to tell you I'm a genius, but by accident I heard someone speak. I was like, flip, that makes sense. They explained the mastery analogy I've just shared with you. I was like, I've got to do this. The next 7 properties I bought were the right houses, on the right streets, in the right towns and cities, and guess what? The next 7 properties we bought made both of us financially free. Mark, my partner, and me became financially free, not from the 17 we'd now got, the first 10 were still not delivering, but from the 7 that we'd bought in the right way. And these were straightforward buy-to-let, family-let properties. And I tell you what, getting to that point of financial freedom is game-changing. You might be someone that's aspirational. It's about what you can do. You know, we never, if we wanted at that point, we could never work again. I was early 30s, and if I wanted, I could choose to never work again. Mark chose that. He's 11 years older than me. He was kind of mid-40s. He chose to never work again. He does some stuff looking after the properties. Even that he's really layering back on now. But he did that because he enjoyed it. We had the choice to never work again. We had the choice to holiday when we wanted to. We could go if we wanted and sit on a beach and just enjoy being on a beach. If you're aspirational, that's where we got to. For some of the rest of you, it's not about that big thing. It's about, I never have to worry about money again. You know, we were at that point. We never had to worry about paying the bills. If I had other things I wanted to do, or new ventures I wanted to start in business, or things I wanted to try out, I could try them out, and if it took me 12 months to master them, I could take the time to do them properly and learn how to do them thoroughly. Whereas before, I used to be in a rush because I had to pay the bills. So it gave me that security, it gave me that peace of mind once I got to financial freedom. It gave me that ability to live life on my terms from a financial point of view. And this is the difference it makes. I don't like the word financial freedom. It's an overused phrase, and it's used in the wrong way. But when I say it, what I'm meaning for you, what I want you to think about is what that would mean for you and how you would spend your time. And we got to that point because we learned how to buy the right houses in the right towns and cities on the right streets. And that's what I'm going to share with you in this very video. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into that. And this is about taking a normal buy-to-let property that's going to make you a couple of £1,000s a year, but making sure it meets all of the profit levers that need to be at the table. There are 4 different profit levers that will make you financially free. Too many of you are buying property. For example, when I started out, I just was after one of them. One of the profit levers is buying at discount. What's the challenge with that? Well, it's great to buy at discount. I'm not telling you not to try and buy at discount. But the challenge is, how many times does it pay you? Just once. Only pays you once. Cash flow pays you again and again and again. Capital growth pays you again and again and again, year after year, decade after decade, century after century when you pass these on to your kids. So the discount, yeah, I like it, but it's nowhere near as important as the other ones. But that was my only rule at the beginning. I was running around just trying to find houses with discount. Because this property had a discount, I'd buy it, but then it would get trashed. Then the tenants weren't even paying me the rent. Then no money was coming in. I had void periods. It was horrendous because my only rule was discount. So enough of the story. What are the rules, Aaron? Are you going to share the rules with us? Let's dive in and let me share with you what I call my 6 C's. So if you've seen this stuff before, listen again. Repetition is the mother of skill. You need to grab a pen and paper and you need to make copious notes and lock it in your nervous system so you remember this for the rest of your life. Because if you follow these 6 C's I'm about to teach you, you will never, ever buy the wrong investment property again. You'll never get the wrong buy-to-let property. But if you fail on just one of these C's, just one of them, I can guarantee you some pain down the line. The pain might hit you next year, it might hit you in 5 years or 10 years, but the pain is coming. And it sounds like I'm making this over dramatic. It's because I care. I want you to buy the right houses. And if you've never heard me teach this stuff before, still go grab the pen and paper, still make copious notes, and make sure you buy the properties to these following rules. In our Done For You service, we buy our clients over 500 houses. We never buy per year. We never buy those properties unless they meet these rules. We've bought our clients over 1,300 properties already in the last decade. I've got over 200 properties in my portfolio. The first 10 bought badly, the rest bought to these rules. You don't build successful businesses, you don't build a successful portfolio unless you buy to the right set of rules. So let's dive in. What's the first C of these 6 C's? Well, the first C is C for capacity. What do I mean by C for capacity? Well, when you're buying your buy-to-let properties, you really want to be looking ideally for 3 and 4 bedroom properties. Why is it that I'm saying you want 3 and 4 bedroom properties? Well, if you're buying a flat, let's say a 1-bedroom flat, you get what I call transiency. So somebody moves in, they fall in love with somebody else who's in another 1-bedroom flat, and they both move out to live together. You buy a 2-bedroom house in the wrong area. The occasional 2-bedroom house can work well, but generally 2-bedroom house in the wrong area, somebody moves in, they've got 1 child, they get pregnant. They're now having a 2nd child, they need a further bedroom, they need a 3-bedroom house, so they move out. Now, transiency on average costs you £1,500 for every time the tenant changes. It can be as little as 0, it can be as much as about £3,000. If it costs you £1,500 and your tenant moves once a year, over a decade, that's a £15,000 problem. If you've got 10 properties, that's now a £150,000 problem you've created because you bought the wrong houses. So you don't want flats, you don't want apartments, you don't want 1 bedroom, you don't really want 2 bedrooms, you want 3, 4 bedroom properties. You avoid that transiency. What I'm looking for as a tenant is what I call a lifer. A lifer says, Aaron, I want to live here forever. My mum and dad live down the road, my uncle and auntie live up there, my kids are at the local school here, I want to live here for life. Now, they may or may not stay there for life, but they'll definitely stay there long term. My average tenancy for me and my done-for-you clients is over 5 years, average tenancy. Why? Because we look for lifers. Over 60% of our property have the lifers in them. It changes the game. When something needs changing, when the door handle breaks, they just fix it because they see it as their home. It's not something they've rented, it's their home. When they want to paint the walls, they say, can we paint the walls? You go, yeah, here's the paint. They paint the walls. They look after it as their home. I've even had tenants contact me and say, Aaron, do you mind if I put a new kitchen in? And I'm like, a new kitchen? You want to put a new kitchen in? I'm not going to pay for it. You've got a perfectly nice kitchen. We don't give them bad kitchens. They've got a perfectly nice kitchen. Like, yeah, it is perfectly nice, but we're going to stay here long term. We'd like to put a really nice kitchen in. Knock yourself out. So we've had tenants have refurbished our properties and put a new kitchen in. When they put that effort into the property, are they more or less likely to pay the rent? More likely. Are they more or less likely to look after the rest of the house? More likely. Are they more likely to respect the neighbours and look after the outside of the house and look after the community? More likely. They're the tenants that I want. And you create those tenants by buying the right houses on the right streets. We're not buying slums, we're not buying run-down houses, but we're not buying penthouses in the City of London either, because they will not give you the cash flow that you need to have at the table. We covered that in video 1. So C for capacity. What's the second C that needs to be at the table? The second C is C for city. Write that down, C for city. What do I mean by C for city? Well, what I mean by this is you need to buy in the right towns and cities, and we started to cover this in the earlier video. So what are the right towns and cities? Let's give you an example. So if you buy my head office for my business, I live in Cheshire, near Manchester Airport, just south of Manchester. But if my head office is based in Scarborough on the East Coast, over 50 members of the team there looking after our clients. And if we buy properties in York, which is about an hour away from Scarborough, I can spend about £150,000 and I can get a 3-bedroom property and it will rent out for about £700 a month, £700 to £750. If I take that same £150,000 and I go to Scarborough, I can buy 2 houses for £75,000 each, both 3-bedroom houses, and these will rent out for about £560 to £580 a month. Let's say £560 for now. So I've got two of those. So now I've got £1,120 a month coming in rental for the same investment. To get those two houses, because the same value costs the same as getting the one in York. I've got £1,120 of rent coming in instead of only £700 in York. That's an extra £420 a month, which is an extra £5,000 a year in rental profit from my two houses in Scarborough. Now, over time, the market goes up the same. York's about a year ahead of Scarborough, but over time they go up the same. If York goes up this year 5%, Scarborough next year will go up 4 to 6. If York goes down 2%, Scarborough next year will go down 1 to 3. So if over time they go up the same, what would I rather have in the meantime? I'd rather have the extra rent. So I'd rather buy in Scarborough. Now, by the way, I'm not telling you to buy in Scarborough. Of the 500 houses we'll buy over this next year for our done-for-you clients, probably about 5 or 10 will be in Scarborough. There's even better places to buy a lot of the time. So I'm not saying buy in Scarborough, I'm saying you need to buy in the right city to get the best possible return. It is business critical. It's the difference between when you've got 10 houses being on 20 grand a year or 80 grand a year because you bought in the wrong place or the right place. That's a phenomenal difference. So what's the third C? Well, the third and the fourth link together. So write them both down, then I'll explain them. The third C is C for capital. What do I mean by capital? I mean capital growth. And the fourth C is C for cash flow. What do I mean by cash flow? I mean the cash flow that your property is creating for you. So let's look at capital growth first of all. There are 5 core things that must be at the table to guarantee you great capital growth. Now, over time, let me throw the graph up briefly so you can see it. Over time, the property prices in the UK have gone up over the last 90 years at 7.9% per annum. This graph shows you the last 50, 51, 52 years. This is land registry data. This isn't figures plucked from mid-air. This is what house prices have actually sold for. You can see the prices compounding every decade, doubling. On average, they double every 8 years. But let's say they double, they go up at 7.9% per annum, compounding again and again and again. I like to be more cautious than that. I like to model on 5% per annum. But if we get the national average, we will be over the moon. We'll be over the moon to catch that trend. So how do you make sure you catch that trend on capital growth? Here's how. 5 ways. Number 1, you buy in a town or a city with the minimum population of 80,000 people. Write that down. Town or population, minimum population, 80,000 people. Secondly, you buy within 5 miles of the town or city centre. I don't mind if you measure it by the town hall or the train station, but within 5 miles of the town or city centre. If it's Birmingham or Manchester, bigger conurbations, you can go 7 miles. But otherwise, within 5 miles of the city centre. Thirdly, within 2 miles of a good or outstanding school. What I mean by good or outstanding is their Ofsted report is good or outstanding. It can be a primary or a secondary school, but you need to be within 2 miles and within the catchment area. Write that down. If it's 2 miles away and not in catchment, no good to you. But if it's 1.5 miles away and it's in catchment, perfect. That ticks that rule. Primary or secondary school, good or outstanding. What are the fourth and the fifth thing? The fourth thing is you need to be on a good public transport network. There needs to be a bus stop or a train or a tram near to the property you're buying. Don't buy on the far side of the estate where it's a half-mile walk to be able to catch the bus that only goes once an hour. And fifth, good road network. Now, if you're in a town or a city within 5 miles, you're pretty likely to be on a good road network. So you're normally going to pass that one if you follow the other rules. But you should never, ever buy a property that fails just one of those 5 criteria. Why? Let's say you buy in a village and the local factory shuts down and 100 people lose their job at the same time that live in the village. Microeconomics is going to kick in. It's not in your control, nothing to do with you. Microeconomics kicks in. For the next 10 years, the houses in that village are not going to go up in value. And your money is totally and utterly stuck in those investment properties because you bought in a village, because you bought in the wrong place. Are you starting to see how critical these rules are? Just one of them missing and you fall over and you never knew why, and you're like, oh, property didn't work for me, or property doesn't work, and you meet people that say property didn't work for them. But they didn't follow these rules, just like I didn't with my first step. They're just mandatory, you have to follow them. What's the fourth one? Cash flow. Cash flow. So many investment properties or potential investment properties fail on this rule. So what's the cash flow rule? Well, I'm going to throw a slide up in front of you just so you can see some numbers. And I've just taken an average 3-bed property. It can be semi-detached or terrace. And this property is, let's say it's a £100,000 property. So let's say it's rented out for $650 a month in this example. And the mortgage on this property is £75,000. They've borrowed 75% of the value. It's on interest only. And I'm going to assume the mortgage rate is 4%. I'll come back to why I've assumed that in a little while. So I'm going to assume it's 4%. I know you can get a lot cheaper right now. So 4%, that's £3,000 a year, is £250 a month. So we've got £650 coming in, £250 going out on the mortgage. Now, what other costs do we have? Well, we've got maintenance that goes out. Now, maintenance on a 3 or 4 bedroom house averages out at £1,000 a year. How do I know that? Because I manage over 1,000 of my own and my clients' properties. So I know what the averages are. You might have a couple of years with no expenditure and then the boiler breaks. So let's budget £1,000 a year, which is about £80 a month. So I've put £80 in for that. Insurance, you're probably going to get for about £15 a month. Let's put in 20. And then the letting agency fee. The letting agency these days, average costs are about 11% plus VAT. So for easy numbers for me, I'm going to put in £80 a month. So we've got $650 coming in, $250 going out on the mortgage, 80 on the maintenance, 20 on the insurance, and another 80 on the letting agency fees. So $650 minus all those costs going out gives us $220 per month profit that's left at the end of our journey here, £220 per month coming into the bank account. And we're smiling at that. Now, why did I put the mortgage, by the way, at 4% when we can get cheaper right now? Because I want you to stress test your properties. One part of the cash flow rule is making sure that if the mortgage rates go up, it still works as an investment. This particular property might, the mortgage rate might be 1 or 2% cheaper. That means you might make another £100 a month in profit. But I'll never show you that deal and say this is going to make you £300. It probably will, but I'd rather show you at 220 and you're excited with that and you're pleased with that, and then it's only upside all the way. That's why I'd rather model my growth of my properties at 5% instead of 7.9, because then it's upside all the way. Let's be safe and secure. We can afford to do that in property. And if a property doesn't pass our test being safe and secure, don't let it in. Don't be greedy. Don't rush to buy them. If it takes another month or two to find the right one, take the extra month or two. You're going to be married to this property for the next 50 years. Your family are going to be married to this property for the next 100 years. It's going to last longer than your marriage for many of you. And I hope not. But it does. In real life, people own their properties often, sadly, longer than they're with their spouse. So make sure you're getting the right one at the beginning. So in this example, we stress test the mortgage at 4%. By the way, for the future, what do? Where's the 4% come from? I look at what the banks are offering a 5-year fixed at. I don't take a 5-year fixed. Write it down. I take a 2-year deal in growth phase. But what are they offering 5-year fixed at? Because the banks aren't stupid. If they're offering a 5-year fixed at 2.5%, I know I'm never really going to pay much more than that for the next 6 or 7 years. So therefore, if I take a 5-year fix and I had 0.5 or 1% onto it, I got to 4% in this example, I know for the next 8 or 9 years I'm never going to be paying more out than that. So I know my cash flow is genuine, that I'm going to be achieving it. So I buy the right house and my cash flow is 220 in this example. Now what's the stress test? What's the tick or the cross that decides whether you buy this property? Well, here it is. And let me put it on the slide to help you with this. So in this example, we got a property, it's making you £220 a month. £220 times 11. Let's assume the property is rented from January the 1st till the end of November, but it sits empty in December. Totally empty, we don't get any rent. Now, by the way, my portfolio and my clients' portfolios run at 98% occupied. On average, they're only empty for 1 week of the year. Why? Because we're getting these great long-term life for tenancies because we're buying the right houses. It all feeds in together, you see. So let's assume 4 times as worse, though it's empty for a month. So what we do is we take the 220, we times it by 11, In this example, we're getting £2,420 of profit by the end of November. And then we assume that it's empty in the December. We assume that no rent comes in at all. And what we want to know is that £2,420 is more than the £650 of rent that we would have got. Is this number going to cover the rent that we would have got in December if it was tenanted? And the rule's really simple. If the answer is no, if that had been £50 a month of profit times 11 is £550, well, £550 isn't enough to cover my void periods. I'm out of here. I'm not buying it. It can meet every other rule under the sun, be in the perfect street, look perfect, have a discount on it, have loads of people interested in renting it. If it doesn't pass this rule, it's out. I'm rejecting it. So what's the number with 11 months of profit, and is it bigger than a 12 months rent? If it's a tick, I'm buying it. Why? Because you'll never have to put another penny in it again. If you're like me, you will love the concept that you invest in a property and you never have to put another penny in it again. You have total peace of mind. You're not doubtful about it, you're not worried about it. You know for a fact that you'll never have to put another penny of your money into that deal again. And even more excitingly, when you follow the rest of the stuff I'm teaching you and going to teach you, you're able to take your original investment back out, and then you're getting an infinite return for the rest of your life and never have to put another penny in again. That's what I want with an investment. And that's what this cash flow rule gives you. Because if you set it up like I've just told you, you know for certain you'll never need another penny again. It's paying you forever. At the end of the month, you pull the lever, the money falls out. It's like a jackpot win every month. Money's falling out, 220 a month, 220, 220. You've got 10 of these. 220 times 10, 220 times 10, 220. And it's just falling into your lap every month. You're not having to do anything, but you never have to put another penny in because you've accounted for the maintenance, you've accounted for the letting agent, you've accounted for everything you need to account for. And this is going to go up in value, and your rents are going to go up, and you're going to be able to release even more, etc., etc. So that's our fourth C, C for cash flow. Make sure you're meeting that rule. I'm sure you'd agree. So what's the fifth C? What's the fifth thing that we need to consider? And this is the one that most even professional investors miss. It's C for check. C for check. What do I mean by C for check? You need to know if you're going to buy an investment property, it's going to rent. This is about the numbers. Will this property rent? I don't care whether you want to live in it or not. People say, oh, I don't think I'd want to live there. Who cares? If 20 or 30 other people want to live there and the carpet's green and you don't like the green carpet but they want to live there, keep the green carpet. Yeah? But if only 3 people want to live there, don't touch it with a barge pole. You're right, don't buy it. So how do you test this? What you do is you run an advert. Let me tell you first of all what used to happen in my early days. I'd advertise a property to rent, 5 people would reply, 3 people would come and view it, and 1 of them would want it. And I'd go home and go, brilliant, I've found a tenant. The reality, and some of you have done this by the way, the reality, out of the 7 billion people on this planet, only 1 of them wanted my miserable house. That is terrible, terrible. So I want a property where I run the advert, and within 7 days, the first week, I get at least 10 replies to my advert. So I run this advert before I buy the property. I agree the deal, and then I run the advert. Now, in the old days, we had newspapers, and you may still have a local evening newspaper that you can advertise in. That's a perfect place to advertise. And we used to do 4 nights for the price of 3, 60, 70 quid. We'd run the advert, we'd check our replies. And if it gets more than 10, it's in, it's past that check. If it gets less than 10, it's out. It's out. I don't care how many other checks it's passed, how many other C's it's passed, it's out. So these days, if you can't run it in a newspaper, then we used to be able to run them on Zoopla. But Zoopla now will often ask you, do you own the property? Can you provide some evidence? So we tend to use a piece of software called OpenRent. And OpenRent will post on multiple sites for you. Or you can use Facebook Marketplace, or there's various other ways to run this check. But you run this check and you're looking for at least 10 replies. Otherwise, it's out. What's the final C? The 6th C is C for contingency. What do I mean by contingency? Well, you want to make sure you have buffer. So many people invest in property and they put in every single penny they've got and they've got nothing left. And then 3 months later, the boiler breaks, it's Christmas, you're supposed to be treating the kids and you're saying, sorry kids, I've got to spend our family money on a new boiler for the tenant. There's nothing as sure as houses that will cause a fight at home and an argument with your spouse who wasn't fully bought into property anyway than you now spending the family Christmas money on a new boiler for the tenant. This is why people again stop at 1, 2 or 3. They hit a hurdle and it personally impacts their personal life at that time. You want this set up as an investment so it doesn't mentally impact you, and you want this set up financially so you have a buffer. You'd be crazy to run a business without a business buffer, without a contingency pot. It's the same with property. So what's the contingency? Well, with different strategies it's different. I'm teaching you family lets here, buy-to-lets as you might know them, and you want to be keeping 4.5% of your original pot. So if you've got 100k to invest, what I'm telling you is £4,500 goes in the rainy day bank account to protect the investment, and the other 95,500 you use. That is for your deposits, for your solicitor's costs, for your stamp duty, for your refurbs, for your letting agency fee, etc. £4,500 rainy day bank account, £95,500 invested. If you've got £1 million, it's still 4.5%. So 45,000 to protect the investment, 955,000 gets invested. You've got 50k to invest, 4.5%, so 250 to one side, 47,750 you invest. You get the principle. You've always then got that buffer, and then as your properties make profit, rental profit, that 220 a month we talked about, you throw that off into and the buffer gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually that buffer gets so big you can buy another house with it. But if a boiler breaks, it's never going to affect you personally, it's never going to impact you and the family because you've got this contingency supporting your investment. It's a separate pot. So I hope this makes sense, and I know I've kind of gone on about it a little bit, but I just know it changes your life. It doesn't just change the game today. These houses you buy will actually make you miserable for life or over the moon happy for life. And I want you to be over the moon happy, and you get over the moon happy when you buy the right houses on the right streets in the right towns and cities to the right rules. And these 6 C's are your rules. You've got them now. You can go back over this video. You can watch those rules again. So now you know the golden rules to buy world-class properties. Let me show you what this looks like. Let's look at a couple of examples. What I've done is I've just pulled out 3 example properties that we've bought for some of our done-for-you clients to show you how this works. So let's look first of all at Farley Close in Middlesbrough, okay? Now I'm sure you'd agree when you look at the pictures of that, this is somewhere many people would like to live. And as you can see from the interior pictures that come with this house doesn't need a wallet-busting refurb. In fact, all it needs is a lick of paint, and it'll rent within a couple of days at the highest rate. Now, this specific deal gives the client an 8.7% rental yield. It means that it puts, when you see the numbers on the screen there, this particular property puts in the client's bottom line in their pocket, accounting for maintenance, accounting for all the costs, £248 a month. That's another £2,976 per year of extra income that the client now has to make improvements to their own house or treat themselves to a luxury or just to cover some of the bills off so they never have to pay those bills again. Here's another 8% rental deal. This one's in South Shields, and it's a bit confusing. It's North Close in South Shields. This is a standard 3-bed terrace house that we picked up with 5% discount. As you can see, the house is in good condition. Other than a little tidying up, it's ready to rent. And this will rent overnight for £525 per month. And after all costs and budgeting that £80 a month for future maintenance, it still puts £209 a month in the client's pocket every single month. That's an extra £2,500 a year of income now coming in from just one house. Finally, let's look at this one, another 3-bedroom terrace house that meets all of my golden rules, and it's a 7.8% rental yield deal that we picked up with a 6% discount for our clients. Have a look at the interior pictures. Again, it's a house in great condition that we were able to buy at a discount. This house will rent overnight to a lifer tenant, somebody that will rent the house for 5 years or more and treat it like their own, and gives the client £218 per month of cash flow after all costs and after saving that £80 a month for future maintenance. As you can see, these are everyday properties, but if you've not bought the right property in the right town and city, on the right street to the right rules, you wouldn't be making this cash flow, they wouldn't be going up in value, and you wouldn't be getting all the benefits of that. Now, earlier on in this video, I talked to you about making £8,000 per property instead of just £2,000 or £3,000 per property. And there'll be a part of you saying, well, Aaron, I'm still not quite getting it. I get this cash flow is really, really cool, but how do I make on average £8,000 from each of these properties per annum on average, instead of just £2,000 or £3,000 per annum that you're currently showing me? Well, I'd like to do a far deeper dive on that, and I know I've been going for some while. So what I'm going to do is invite you back for a third video in this series. And it's the third and final video where I want to share with you exactly all of the 4 profit levers. Here we're talking about cash flow. The cash flow is really cool on these properties, but what are all the 4 profit levers clearly laid out for you so you can make on average £8,000 per family-let property that you invest in that only costs you £100,000 to buy, instead of just making £2,000 or £3,000. So what I want to do, look out for my email in the next couple of days that will invite you to see that third video in the series. Share this video on with your friends and family so you get them on board and they start to understand about property as well. And if you're not on my database or you're not getting my emails for any reason, look for the form or the link somewhere around here so you can put in your email address and we can make sure we send you that link to the third video. In the meantime, study the rules again, start to get them clear in your head, but definitely come back. This isn't all of the jigsaw. Don't just go by what I've showed you so far. Come back and see the third video in this series so you make sure you're maximizing the profits from your property portfolio. In the meantime, invest with knowledge, invest with confidence, create financial freedom. I'll speak to you really soon. Thank you.